The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Community TV, its sponsors, or partners.
Welcome to Breton Connects on Eastlink Community TV. I'm your host, Cecil Clark, and joining me today is Carla Arsenault, the principal of the Nova Scotia Community College Sydney Waterfront Campus. Carla, what a place. You must have so much pride to be able to be on the waterfront of Sydney and lead this phenomenal community college presence in our community.
It is absolutely incredible, Cecil. We couldn't be happier down here, and we are so incredibly excited about the support we've gotten from the community, and just the change in the culture and the vibrancy on our campus.
So we have a lot of ground to cover today, but let's start with the former campus itself at Marconi. This facility is night and day. It is transformative. It's the leading edge versus a facility that was kind of inherited as a trades, conventional, sort of industrial process to thinking what a community college would be. So what was versus what is, the evolution. You must have found it a challenge within the old walls to try and do modern programming as well as, up-to-date trades training.
Absolutely. So I really compare this to transitioning from a traditional trade school to a truly modern college in the heart of downtown. So our old building would have been built about in the 60s, 70s. It was very much an old trade school. It was inherited by the college when NSCC became NSCC under the Community Colleges Act when that was formed in 1996. And now this new building is completely different. The Marconi building was about 239,000 square feet on 2 levels with 40 acres of woodland around us, located on Grand Lake Road, which is, we were behind Cape Breton University, sort of nestled and tucked into the woods. This new building is 305,000 square feet. We have 4 buildings that are connected on the 3rd floor via a pedway system. We have 3 buildings on the waterfront, 1 across the road, and we have a pedway where the community drives through our space. So lots of windows, lots of natural light, lots of accessibility features, including the Rick Hansen Foundation accessibility standards and our LEED certification. So lots of really interesting building features, but really the biggest part is being downtown and the vibrancy that comes with, having cars driving by. People are seeing us, people are seeing our students are interacting with the public, interacting with the community, and it's a truly such a significant change and so impactful for, I think, the campus and for downtown.
So it's one of those elements that, all things old are new again. The sense of education always evolves, and I've seen, like, even with the transition, you've been able to, even in the core trades themselves, like carpentry, electrical, plumbing, what you have within this complex in terms of the latest technology and the standards of training that would have been much better, literally to retool an entire campus for that component, but also the transition itself in what the community college, as you say, is a modern college. You're into everything in terms of different lines of practice, medical, business, marketing. People are developing careers through the community college that a few short decades ago people didn't think possible.
That's absolutely true, and this space was purpose-built for us, purpose-built to meet the needs of the programming that we are offering today. We did transition about 50% of our assets from the old campus, but everything else is brand new. So in our old space, for example, we would have had 1 culinary kitchen. In this facility, we have 2 beautiful culinary kitchens. We've got lots of new equipment, for example, our welding shops, all brand new welding gear, state-of-the-art, beautiful plasma cutters, all sorts of new technology that our students are able to train and learn on to take those skills then into the workforce with them.
And when we talk about what makes a college possible, any academic institution or the people within it, And so you have a phenomenal team that work and provide that educational foundation, but also the students themselves. So I've had the benefit of being at the Marconi campus and student enthusiasm in life, and meeting with students that were either graduating from the former campus and ones transitioning in. And there was an excitement about those that were coming down to graduate from the new campus, and also the sense of accomplishment. And the other thing I noticed was students coming to the community college and seeing careers available for them here at home. The old perception was you get educated to go somewhere else. And now we're in a situation where the community college is being leaned on to try and meet the labor market demands here in Cape Breton alone, let alone people going further afield. So we see this as, the community college's presence to provide a stable, qualified labor force going in the future. The labor market demands, that must be one of the things that drives the programming that happens within the buildings.
It sure does. So across Nova Scotia, we look at what the labor needs are within the province, within the regions that the campuses are located, and we try to make sure that we can do our best to match those. What was really exciting when we moved was to see the students, as you mentioned, that would have been, if they were in a 2-year program, for example, they would have had 1 year at Marconi, and then their graduating and final year being the first graduating class. They would have come down to Sydney Waterfront, and that would have been the start of their 2nd year, and they would have been part of the first graduating class here. So to see that transition and transformation for them was truly incredible. But no, we really do, I think, try to align ourselves as best as we can with the market. The priorities, as we know in Nova Scotia right now, there's a huge need for healthcare workers. There's a huge need for trades, in particular residential trades. But we have, this particular campus offers programs across all 5 schools within the college. So we do have programs in business and creative industries, trades and transportation, access education and language, technology and environment, and health and human services. So we really do cover the breadth and depth of many of the programs across the college. We have more than 30 programs here at NSCC.
And those programs can transition, because I know you have the relationship with the high school level programming that can get people transitioned into programming at the community college, but also the programming opportunities between the community colleges programming itself with Cape Breton University. So that also is the flexibility that the community college offers for people to have an entry path in, but also a success outcome that gives them the career credentials they need to be in the labor force.
It sure does. So one good example of that would be our business administration program. So it's a 2-year diploma program where students can come in, spend 2 years studying business. When they come out at the end of 2 years, they have a diploma. They can then take that, and through our articulation agreements with universities such as Cape Breton University, they can then move into the BBA program at CBU. So really good opportunity for students who perhaps when they come out of high school, they're not sure what they want to do, and they're not quite sure they want to go to university, but they come here, they take that 2 years, they have that at the end of 2 years, if they want to then immediately go out into the workforce, they can, but if they want to then take that diploma and turn it into a degree, they can do that as well. We see it also in other programs where perhaps a student comes here and they do practical nursing, and then they decide maybe it's immediately following, or in some cases they go out and they work as a nurse for a number of years, and then they decide, I'd like to be an RN. And then you will see them move on to other post-secondary universities like Cape Breton University to further add to their skills. We also have other programs like social services. Now they have a new social work program at CBU, so you will see students that are taking the social services program who say, oh, okay, well maybe now I'm ready to take that next step.
And so for the viewers, it isn't us and them, it's about the we. We're able to help, that we have to partnership, that before a lot of people saw institution as this is who we are, we're in these 4 walls, we do our programming inside of it, and then if you go somewhere else, you do that, and that this whole sort of seamless, so partnerships with the high school level, to the university, and you'd mentioned about the medical. So this is the Waterfront Campus being brand new. We have a new School of Medicine being built at the university. And what happens is once that school opens, it complements the School of Nursing, the other medical science programming, and then the community college helps to fill in, because one of the things that we're hopeful, and I'm hopeful on behalf of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, is as that evolves, so does research and development, so does private endowments and other things come with it. So it really builds that broader capacity of academic learning, training, and providing that life skills and that tooling up for careers. And one of the pieces of that, and I know that from my own friends and family network, is the community college offers people not just where am I going after high school. You must see so many people that come back to do new training, retraining, to bring their skill set to another level, and that the community college doesn't really have an age profile per se.
We do not, and in fact, the average age of an NSCC student is 26.
There
So
you go. Yes.
we will have students that come out of high school, we will have students who go to university, and then they decide to come to NSCC because they're looking for perhaps something that will lead them quicker to the workplace. And then we have others who just, maybe they weren't sure, they wanted a career change, and they can come back and study here and do that. What's really different, I think, about Cape Breton and now versus Cape Breton 20, 30 years ago is we just have so many more choices. For a student who grows up in the CBRM or anywhere on the island, you now have options to study, live, and work in Cape Breton. And those opportunities, they weren't here 20, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you were told you're going to be a teacher or you're going to be whatever, and you were going to move away and you're going to get a job.
Absolutely, yes, that's how it was.
The narrative has changed on that so much, and I think a lot of that is because you have better options here at home. We've got a brand new, beautiful facility here located at Sydney Waterfront in the downtown. Cape Breton University is growing and increasing their programming at their campus, and it really gives students choices. And and I think that is not just choices for their education, but I think many students they're choosing to stay and live and work here after they graduate, which is such a big change for families. It's a big change for the community as a whole.
And it's a welcome change.
It's a welcome change.
And with that, we'll be back after the break. So welcome back, Principal Arsenault. Carla, this building itself is so unique. The design itself is to kind of build from the heritage, aside from being in the heart of the downtown on the waterfront, but its design is unique for a particular purpose, or I guess homage to the past, is it not?
It certainly is. So, when they first picked the location and made the decision to build on the waterfront, they, really spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, what do we want this to look like? How do we want it to look and feel and blend within the community? And the architects had said, we could have just built a box, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to make sure that it was something that would resonate with the community. And so what you have is 3 buildings that are on the waterfront that are sort of longer and narrow and meant to resemble the piers that would have existed on Sydney Harbour many years ago. So you have those 3 in a row that are connected through the pedway, and then you have that 4th building that's across the street on Charlotte Street that's connected via pedway as well. So the community really drives through the campus. We also have a lot of other features like steel and different aspects of the materials that are used in the building that would have been sort of reminders, I guess, of the culture and the history of this community.
And with this opportunity for location of the new campus, there also was a lot of thought into the process of recognizing the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq and the presence of our First Nations here, and I think that's reflected through the themes of the building, and that would have taken consultation with our First Nations as well.
It sure did. So we've tried to be very intentional as we moved into the building to think about the cultural aspects and make sure that we were trying to highlight aspects of our community and that were important to people and of our culture. So we did do, we have a couple of areas in particular that we started out. We didn't want to over-design the building, and we didn't want to, until we had time to live in the space for a while, but we did start with 4 initial projects. The first project is in the front entrance space, and we have 4 breakout rooms that have beautiful petroglyphs that are on the glass on film. We worked with Jane Meter, who is a local Mi'kmaq expert in, she's an educator, and she had helped us to define what those petroglyphs were and to come up with the proper design and language. We had worked with a group of elders as well in that project, and in the second project, which is a very large installation, which you'll see part of it behind us here, and that is in our library. So the library starts on the 2nd floor and is open to the 5th floor, and we have a very large Mi'kmaq birch bark display. And the birch bark display is based on a story of Kiju. The story is written by Melody Martin Gugu, who is from Millbrook First Nation. And the story is about Angie and her grandmother tells her about all the uses of birch bark by the Mi'kmaq over the years. So that is represented in the large multi-level display that we have in the library. And then off of our cafeteria, we have a large display that is representing Marcus Garvey and talks about the UNIA halls that were here and important for our historic African Nova Scotian communities in our community. And then in the cafeteria, we have a very large 2-story display that talks about the history of coal and steel.
So it's a lot of thought has gone into the theming of the building, but a lot has gone into the planning of the building on 2 fronts. You referenced the Rick Hansen standard, and the other one I'd like to address is some of the modern features that efficiency and energy and thoughtfulness has gone into it. Can you explain to the viewers about the Rick Hansen standard and what is different about the new campus from the old?
Sure. So this building was built to Rick Hansen Foundation accessibility standards, which means that we've gone above and beyond the normal or government required accessibility standards in this space. And really it's about, we want it to be accessible. We want it to be accessible for our students. We want it to be accessible to the public. So there's lots of interesting features, from braille signage on the doors to markers at the tops of all the stair levels, to the widths of the doors, the spacing in the classroom, and how the tables and chairs are laid out. We have desks that will raise. We have a host of features all across the building, inside and outside the space, to make sure that it is accessible to everyone.
And you can't go anywhere without having some beautiful windows, natural light, but also taking advantage of energy efficiencies. This building thought through going to the future and making sure we're as current as possible. And I know there's a lot of featured work and effort into the energy efficiency, and on top of accessibility, on top of the themes. So as a principal, that's a lot of moving parts, but on the efficiency side, it does matter to have as efficient as possible a building, because otherwise that's coming at a programming cost. So you must find a difference with the operational aspect, but can you go through some of the energy efficiency initiatives within the complex?
Yeah, well, I think I'll start and talk a little bit about the building itself and how it is on the waterfront. So as you can imagine, one of the biggest concerns that we heard from the public was, what about sea level rise? You're building a building on the waterfront. Well, that was very much taken into consideration. So when the building was first built, we raised the ground 1.25 meters to account for sea level rise. So the entire property was raised, and that including removing the existing boardwalk that was there, so that we could raise it around the property when the building was finished. And that is a public community boardwalk. So the entire property was raised. The building was built on piles. So there was 852 piles that are 60 feet in the ground. At the time, during its construction, it was the largest pile driving project in Canada. And if you remember those days of the very loud banging in Sydney, which I think for many of us, we thought it as the sign of progress. And but yeah, the building is built on piles, and then the building has geothermal heating and cooling. We have lots of beautiful natural light. Everything is quite modern and digital, so you know, the heating and cooling is all automated. Everything is really done with, I think, you know, with sustainability in mind, and that trails through, I think, even throughout the campus, right? We try to do our best to limit, even within the cafeteria, trying to be more efficient with packaging and things. So we're really trying to you know, change the way and what we model, I guess, for our students and for community. So we have water refill stations throughout the building so that students can refill their water bottles rather than purchasing bottled water, that kind of thing.
Well, all of those aspects and the amenities and the features, as you mentioned, connect us to the community. You mentioned the boardwalk, and aside from a sea level rise, it does connect the broader community. So into the existing boardwalk, there's a beautiful exterior outside green space here, amphitheater. The viewers would not be necessarily aware, but can see that it will go and link through the underpass into Wentworth Park, all the way down to the cruise pavilion on the other end. This actually becomes an asset that the community is part of the living life of the Sydney Waterfront Campus, and also from a student point of view, just to have a break between classes, to be able to go outside, sit on the waterfront and enjoy it, but also driving life into the downtown core, economic spin-offs and benefits as a result of this. And I know many of us are keen to see a residence in the future that will put more student life in our community. So it must be a real exciting time for you and a sense of pride, because you've been part of this whole process the whole way along. On a personal level, what does this mean for you?
For me, it's transformational, right? And you know, as somebody who's you know, is raising a family here in this community, there's nothing better than to see this kind of progress. And you know, when we are now seeing thousands of cruise ship passengers come off those boats, you know, each week, and they are walking down the boardwalk and they are checking out the sites, and you know, they are now going to be able to make their way, as you mentioned, you know, across the property. We've put in a proper footpath for them to make their way through the tunnel over into Wentworth Park, which should be open soon. And it's really exciting times, and it's created a kind of downtown core that other communities have had and one that I think we can be proud of.
There's one thing before we get to wrap up. There's one aspect to talk about this building and putting life in the community. There's life within these four walls now that is unique, and that's the partnership with the YMCA and the programming they're doing that previously wouldn't have happened through the former Marconi campus. So for our viewers' benefit, can you give us some insight of the new life that's inside the campus for the future generation of learners?
Yeah, so what's really exciting about this space compared to our old one is we now have the ability to host summer camps and other events and activities that we just didn't have in our other locations. So we're really excited to be partnering with the YMCA. They are running their summer camps here at this campus. So all summer long we have young people that are hanging out here. They're going over to the Y to do their activities. They're coming back. They're having lunch, and it's really exciting. It brings vibrancy to the building, and it also, I think, you know, exposes young people who to NSCC and to see that they too can choose to follow any number of career paths using college as a way to do that. And we have a program running next week with Ignite. And we also have our own internal NSCC summer camp that runs next week. We'll have 60 students that are covering 4 trades: carpentry, metal fabrication, plumbing, and culinary. So they'll be in groups of 15, so it's a free camp. So lots of young faces are going to be around this building next week, so really exciting.
Well, you mentioned the word transformational, and it's transforming lives, it's transforming our community, it's transforming the image of the community college. And for that, we're very appreciative of your time to join with us, Carla, and give us some insight into this amazing facility within the heart of Sydney now that is adding life and vibrancy. And for that, we're very grateful. Thank you, Carla.